Hey everybody, welcome back to FM. In part 3 of our NC Turbo installation series, we're going to install our outlet and weld in our cat to our downpipe. Now our outlet casting has to install from the bottom, and we also have to slightly elevate our engine to be able to get it into place. So because we're on a lift, I'm using a pogo stick or an engine safety stand to be able to elevate the engine. So remember in a previous step, we removed the nut on the passenger side engine mount. So we're going to raise the engine to where we're up about 25 millimeters or about an inch. That will give us the clearance we need to install our outlet. Now, our outlet has a nice coating on it, and we're passing it by some paint, which we don't want to scratch either. So in an effort to save scratches on both parts, I'm going to coat just the top half of the manifold in masking tape. Now also remember, because we're lifting on the pan, we need to distribute the load and use something soft. So you can see here I have a block of wood, and we also want to avoid having the stand or the block of wood contact the fitting. If you point load the pan, you could end up cracking it. So that's why we want to distribute the load. So now we'll go ahead and raise it. All right, that should do it. All right, so as we go in, we're gonna rotate it to where the flange is facing the passenger side until we're up past the lip of the chassis rail. And then we'll rotate it back, continue to lift. Takes a little bit of finagling until you're up to the studs, and then slide it on. So now that the outlet is in place, we'll lower the engine back down, we'll lower the car back down, and we'll secure the outlet to the turbine housing. Now back up top, we will remove our tape and then we will install our outlet hardware. Now we'll take a Nordlock washer and a locking nut. We'll install them using a 13 millimeter socket and torque them to approximately 16 pound-feet. A variety of extensions will be helpful to use here. Now we're going to reinstall our primary oxygen sensor, so we'll add a little fresh anti-seize to the threads and get it put in. Now we want to plug our oxygen sensor in, but our harness plug is down here and won't quite reach because our sensor is slightly relocated. So we want to disconnect both of these oxygen sensor plugs. The top one is for the front, the bottom one is for the rear. Don't worry about getting them mixed up because they're keyed, so they can't be plugged in backwards. So we will take some pliers and unclip them from this bracket. Now we can plug in our primary sensor. Now we're gonna get ready to install our cat. Now there's two options here. You can purchase a prefabricated cat pipe where the V-band is already welded on to a brand new Mazda cat, or like what we're gonna do here, you can modify your existing cat to work. All right, since we are modifying our cat, we need to do some disassembly. We need to take the heat shield off, and these heat shields tend to be pretty rusty depending on where you're from. So we do want to hit them with some penetrant, give it some time to soak in. We will be reinstalling this heat shield later on, so we want to try to take it off in one piece and be able to reuse the hardware. All right, we'll give that some time. All right, now that we've let our penetrant soak, we will now remove the hardware using a 10mm socket. We actually don't need to remove this one because the heat shield has already rusted off of it. And there's our cat. Now the next step in modifying our cat is to cut off the manifold portion. So you're gonna locate this weld right here at the top of the cat. We're basically gonna cut right down the middle of the weld. So use that as your line. So you can use a chop saw, or in our case, we're gonna use a 4-inch cutoff wheel. And also be sure you have proper safety equipment. So this piece can go in the trash. On this piece, we'll switch over to a flat disc to clean up any deburring. We'll also take a wire brush and just clean up this metal so it's ready for welding. All right, I've switched over to a flat disc, so I'm gonna just clean up the cut a little bit. So now we're gonna take a wire brush and we're gonna prep our welding surface. Basically what we want is to have the metal cleaned up all the way down to where this radius is, where the cat starts to bulge back out. All right, we should be ready to weld. Now in preparation of welding our cat, we need to put our downpipe top up into place. So we have this custom 4-inch V-band downpipe top, which we'll weld our cat to, and we have the 4-inch V-band clamp. So we're gonna secure this to the outlet casting. A couple things to pay attention to. Make sure you orient your V-band hardware in a way that you can access the hardware to tighten once it's in place. The other thing to do is this nut is locking. I don't recommend using an impact on it as it tends to gall the threads. So now we'll get ready to put this in place. We'll tighten down the hardware with a 13mm socket. Now we don't need to get it 100% tight. We only need it tight enough for the downpipe top piece to not have any movement to it. So let's get it in. All right, now we're ready to put our cat in. So we have our factory cat bracket, the original hardware that holds it to the cat. Be sure to line up the nuts with your scribe marks that you made during the disassembly before tightening it all down with a 14mm socket. Also have the bolt that bolts the bracket to the block in hand. So now we're going to put this assembly into place. We want to make sure that the top portion of the cat fits within the downpipe topper that we just installed. Okay, so basically we will get that into the topper and then we will come around and install our bolt. So it might be hard to see what I'm doing right now, but I am installing the bolt through the bracket into the block. Now the cat will want to still fall out until we get that bolt tight. We're finally ready to weld. So we have our welder hooked up. Now a couple things for welder preparations. First and foremost, which we've already done, we need to disconnect the battery. So since that's done, our next step is to hook up our ground. Now we have our ground hooked up. I have it hooked up to the bottom of the cat. Now what that does is it makes the welding circuit as short as possible and it keeps it away from any of the electronics of the vehicle. Once that's all set up, we're going to determine our settings. Now this could vary per welder depending on type of welder, voltage, all that. So use the chart that came with your welder to determine what settings you need to use. So we're all dialed in here. So we will get turned on. We're going to tack weld the cat in 3 places. That makes sure that it's triangulated so it won't shift at all once we go to disconnect it. Once it's out of the car, we'll fully weld it and it'll be good to go. So with that, we'll get started. All right, now that we have the cat sufficiently tack welded in place, we can remove the assembly by first removing the lower cat bracket and then removing the V-band. We'll take the assembly out and then we will weld it at the bench. Okay, we'll set that bolt aside. We will switch to our 13 to remove the V-band. Okay. Let's take our V-band and set it aside for now. Now we have the cat at the bench. I'm gonna go ahead and take this bracket off. That'll make it easier to maneuver the cat on the bench as I go to weld it. And we will no longer need the cat support bracket. You do want to save the hardware as the kit provides a new cat support bracket. Now I'm going to go ahead and fully weld the downpipe top onto the cat. Now that we've welded our downpipe top to the cat, we now need to modify the heat shield to reinstall. So basically what we're doing here So we're taking a Sharpie, we're putting the cat shield where it goes. We want to make sure there's plenty of room for the V-band clamp. So I'm going to make a mark basically on the cat shield right above the weld. And then I'm going to do that on both sides. Now you can either use a piece of tape, or if you're good at freehand, you can just draw your line all the way across where you need to cut. Okay, now we'll do it for the other side. Now we'll take our grinder and cut off this top section. Not too shabby. Then we can go ahead and clean these up with a wire brush, take off the edge and make them not quite so sharp. All right, now that we've modified our cat shield, we can go ahead and reinstall our shield back onto our cat. We're using the original hardware in a 10mm socket. I like to get all the hardware installed loose until I get all the pieces on, and then I tighten them down, since there's some overlap. There we are. For those of you who stuck with us through modifying the cat, let's get ready to put it in. For those of you who bought a prefabricated downpipe, this is where you're going to want to pick up. So we have our cat assembled with the heat shielding and everything. Now we're ready to install it for the final time. So I have my V-band loaded. I have it oriented as I want it in the car. Got my nut ready. So now I'm going to attach it to the outlet. All right, so we have the cat in place. We have the V-band with the nut on it, but we left it loose. You can go ahead and snug it up a little bit, but we want to be able to retain a little bit of the ability to clock the cat. So when we install our lower cat support brace, everything lines up. Once the cat support brace is in, then we'll fully tighten down the V-band. Now we're at the FM shop today because since we first filmed the NC Turbo installation video, this kit has been updated. So this is our cat support brace kit. It comes with the 2 metal plates, comes with the 2 silicone isolators, and some hardware. So I'm going to show you how to assemble it at the bench, and then we'll get it installed on the car. So we're going to start with our upper bracket, which has the 2 larger holes. We're going to take our high temp silicone isolators, and we're going to feed them into position. Now check it top and bottom and just kind of work it until it's all in place. We'll do that again. Okay. Now we'll take our aluminum inserts, and those will press into the center of the isolators. We'll now take our other metal bracket, we'll lay it on top in this orientation. We'll feed our bolts in from the top, and we'll flip the assembly over, add our large fender washers, and finally our nuts. Now these are locking nuts, so they do take some effort to get into place. So we will take a 13mm wrench and socket, and we'll get this tightened up at the bench. Now we are tightening against the sleeve that's inside the bushing, so we do want to get those tight. All right, once again, now that we're assembled, we will go put it in the car. Now, if you recall from when we installed our Cat, we did leave the V-band slightly loose, and the reason for that is so we can make small adjustments as we install our bracket. So I'm gonna get our bracket put into place, loosely bolted up, make adjustments as necessary, and then we'll tighten up the Cat. So now what we're looking for is just making sure that our brackets are sitting flush where they need to. So this vertical section is flush against the boss on the block, and this horizontal section is flush on the bottom of the Cat. So again, you can rotate your Cat as necessary to make sure that happens. We're looking pretty good. So now I'm going to tighten up the Cat, and then I'll come back down here and tighten up the hardware. We're going to go ahead and tighten down our V-band, and then we can come back down and fully tighten our Cat brace hardware. So using the 13mm socket on the V-band, we will get that tight. So when it comes to the V-band, we don't have a specific torque spec for that. We do want to get it fairly snug. You don't need to go crazy on it. It is a locking nut, so it will not back off. Our main goal is to just make sure the clamp is tight on the flanges. So now we're going to tighten our Cat bracket. So starting with the bolt in the block, using a 14mm socket, we'll get that tight. And from underneath, we'll tighten our nuts at the Cat. Everything is tight. Now we're ready to install our post-Cat O2 sensor. So again, a little bit of fresh anti-seize, and we'll go install it. Okay, we got it snug. Tighten it down with a wrench. And we'll feed the cable up to the front. With the harness routed up to the front, we'll go and plug it into its connector. Now, if your Cat still has the wire holder, you'll want to install your harness into that to keep it away from the Cat. Ours is clearly rusted off, so just make sure that it's installed in such a way that this harness won't end up rusting against the Cat. All right, with the Cat fully situated, we can reinstall our mid-pipe. So since I don't have the studs here, I'm going to just temporarily put my stud / rust welded nut back into place to hold the front, and then I'll secure everything on the back. That on just a few just to hold it. So with everything held in place, I can go ahead and fully install the hardware. Now we'll secure the middle. Tighten these up with a 12. Now I gotta pull the hardware back out so I can reinstall the gasket. Again, this is a aftermarket muffler, so yours parts may look different. All right, with our exhaust fully installed, we can install all of our under chassis bracing. So starting with the rearward brace, we'll install it and use a 12mm socket. All right, now for the middle brace. Now recall we left 2 of our bolts in, which makes it easy to mount. And now for the forward brace. Now, since we're done manipulating the engine position, lifting it up off the passenger side mount, let's not forget to install our passenger side mount nut. We'll use a 17mm socket. Okay. All right, that concludes video 3 of our NC Turbo installation series, where we installed our outlet casting, welded in our cat, and then reinstalled our exhaust and under chassis braces. Be sure to stay tuned for our next video, where we will install our water lines and our intercooler. If you have any questions over anything you've seen in this video, definitely reach out to our tech support team. They'd be happy to help you out. And if you like content like this, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, as we will release more content like this in the future. So be sure to join us next time, and we'll see you then.